All right, good evening. Good evening. It's 5:30, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming out today. First off, I'd like to make a few introductions. One is Lieutenant James Barnes. He is the lieutenant over the beach now as of today. So he's on his first day, and he got stuck with us. So thank you for your service. If you want to just introduce yourself real quick. And
Thank you, sir. My name is James Barnes. Like you've just been told, I'm the lieutenant at the beach. Today is my first day. Just want you all to know that the sheriff's office is committed to public safety. Yeah. Is that better? Okay. We just want you to know that the sheriff's office is still committed to our relationship out here at the beach. We want to continue this relationship and improve upon everything we've been doing. If there's anything that I can help any of you with, my door's open at any time. So just make sure you give me a shout, and I'll help you any way I can.
Yep, thanks for coming out. And I know a lot of us have gotten to know Captain Pachuki. He is still over the beach, but has a couple other precincts as well. So he'll be spending some time out here, but most of his time inside or in the county. Also, I'd like to recognize Station 13 that's here tonight, our ladder and engine company. One of the things that we did last fall was expand Station 13 to where instead of having 4 firefighters, we now have 6. So we have 2 crews that can respond using both of the apparatus. It was the first station in Escambia County that we did that with. It's a model that we're going to try to use in other parts of the county, especially in our higher volume areas. But with them being almost on an island out here in terms of response, the types of calls that they get that sometimes require additional units if you're involved with a motor vehicle accident and trying to land a helicopter, or which they've already had a couple times, is where they're both called to separate calls. And so I think it's been very helpful having the crew of 6 out here, and I know they'll be busy this summer, so I appreciate y'all's service. Thank you so much. I'd also just like to recognize a couple other members that are here today. First, we have Wes Moreno, the county administrator; Wesley Hall, our assistant county administrator; David Heroux is our community media relations director. I see Jeanette is here with CMR as well. Joy Blackman, our engineer director; Chris Phillips, our traffic engineer; Tim Day with natural resources. I think Lee Davis was getting ready to come in. I don't know if I've seen her yet, but she just talked to her and she's on her way. Jeremy Johnson, your Santa Rosa Island Authority elected board member, is here. We also have our assistant administrator, Debbie Bowers. And then I see Lois Benson with ECUA District 2, but appreciate her coming out here. I don't know if I've seen anybody else, but I think I've gotten everybody. So appreciate everybody coming out today. One of the things I first want to talk about, bringing up ECUA, is that, of course, I think a lot of you know that they're doing the reclaimed water project. That project will be starting sometime this fall, and there will be some construction pains, I guess the best way it is. But I'd say our staffs are working together to try to mitigate those and limit those to have the least amount of impact, including not impacting the Christmas parade and Mardi Gras. So we'll work to keep everybody best informed that we can, but again, something this fall that they'll be working on, and you'll see some work going on that. So I'm going to have an open forum here a little bit, but one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight is a parking garage on Pensacola Beach. For the last couple of years, we've made some changes to the traffic. We're putting more cars onto the beach at a quicker rate than we ever have before. Saturday, we actually had our busiest day on record. We had 24,477 cars. That beats the record set last year by over 930. Previous to that, we were typically not breaking 22,000 cars during an entire summer on any given day, and yesterday was 22,100 cars. So we are also, Sunday had an hour that we got 2,300 cars on in 1 hour, which again, 4 years ago, you're probably looking at 1,800 or 1,900 cars in an hour. So we've increased by 400 cars what we can do in an hour. And the question is, where do they all go then? So we know we can handle that volume, but once they get in, when the parking lot fills up, they start making the rounds on where else they can park. That's where we start to see some of our congestion. I'd also want to go ahead and quickly address yesterday evening. At approximately 4:45, there was a motor vehicle accident at the northbound of Pensacola Beach Boulevard that blocked a lane of traffic for over 2 hours. This is what caused the backup that a lot of people experienced trying to leave the beach until it was cleared at about 8:30. I don't think we had those same issues. I mean, I know we didn't have those same issues on Saturday when we had 2,000 more cars out here. And so, we were doing well up until that point, but as soon as we lost that lane of traffic leaving the beach, it quickly backed things up. And our traffic engineer made adjustments once that lane was open to try to flush both directions as quickly as we could. So I have a map up here of our core area. There's been, some people have done studies about where to put a parking garage, and they've ranged from in front of the sheriff's substation to Casino Beach parking lot to in front of the Shaker to the Island Authority lot, and also in front of Flounders. I would say all these have their different challenges. Some of them aren't big enough. Some like the Island Authority would require us to relocate the building and still would be fairly tight. I'd say what our proposal to look into further would be to place a parking garage or a parking deck at Casino Beach parking lot. The idea would be that the impact would be minimal in terms of appearance. Low profile would be what we would look to hope to do. Even given some discussions today surrounding the reclaimed water pipes and things like that, we would have to set it off the north part of the parking lot a little bit. So it wouldn't be right in your face as you're driving down Pensacola Beach Boulevard and going through the intersection. And I'd even want to consider looking at having a walkover that would start near the bottom of right as you get across the street from Casino Beach parking lot, and gradually make an incline to where you could go across the street and then down into the quiet water boardwalk area. I think this would help with pedestrians, as we saw. Our traffic report can count the number of pedestrians, so we had between 3,000 and 4,000 pedestrians each day this past weekend utilizing the intersection. So that would be one of those things where it would get pedestrians out of the traffic. So that's really what we're here to talk about. I'd say earlier this year, some businesses, the boardwalk merchants, came to me and wanted to start doing this again, of looking into a parking garage. And I know there have been different discussions over the years. I think part of the traffic solution for Pensacola Beaches is the traffic itself, parking, and then pedestrians. So that's our three-legged stool that we try to work on. And I think we have made considerable improvements to getting traffic on the beach and also off the beach, as we have our timing that we work on. We have a traffic engineer that monitors it on the weekends, can make adjustments. We've added some cameras over this past fall to where they can look down further down Fort Pickens and also from the fire station. And all that is data that they use to make adjustments to our cycle that we've adjusted and refined over the last few summers. And so I honestly, I was very surprised when I saw that 24,000 number come across the screen this morning, because as I do most weekends, I do look at it. I talk to the traffic engineer, see what we're doing. We didn't see a significant backup on Fort Pickens for most of the day on Saturday. There was a little bit got into the S curve in front of Margaritaville, and that was because we were still trying to get traffic off of 98. And I think that's probably the thing that we've seen, is that now that we have our first few days of heavy traffic volume with the bridge completely open, we are seeing that we are backing up onto Highway 98 a little bit, but it's still taking, I believe the average time was, or the max time that it took somebody to get from the traffic light at the Chick-fil-A was about 20 minutes through the traffic light. And even on Saturday, I think we kept it off of the Chappie James Bridge. So things are moving. Gulf Breeze is happy that people aren't trying to cut through the neighborhoods, and I think that's our biggest objective that we try to do during the day, is to try to not have it back up on Highway 98, block that traffic that's the through traffic going east to Fort Walton, and then at the same time we start giving preference to trying to clear Fort Pickens in the parking lot as we can before we make it a priority later in the afternoon. With that, I'd really like to open it up to comments. Let me go ahead and give a little bit more detail about the parking garage. What I would look at is something east of the walkway, that is east of the beach ball. So if you think just south of the chamber building, east to the entranceway, we would have to, again, probably keep it south of the chamber building to avoid some of those utilities, water lines, reclaimed water, gas. And so that would put us in about 500 spots. Of course, you're going to lose some through construction and things like that. What we think about is a surface spot like you see now is about $7,000 or $8,000 a spot. If you do a multi-level parking garage, I've heard it last summer at being $35,000 a spot. Last week I heard that which they were expecting it to go down a little bit, was $30,000 a spot. But maybe if you only do a one-level deck, it's a little bit cheaper. Okay. Thank you. Is that better? And so we're looking, that could be about $20,000 a spot. And so we have different ways that we could pay for it. The method that was proposed was to raise the toll to help cover it. And I would say that because paid parking is something I would try to avoid out here. Because we want people to come to the core. It's where we have our services, it's where we have our restaurants, it's where we have our lifeguards, bathrooms, everything like that. And so we want them to come here and not worry about having to avoid paying for a parking. We have a number of restaurant employees and employees in the core area that have trouble finding parking, and that contributes to it as well. And I would say that I've looked at a lot of possibilities. We could try to have a parking area for them somewhere else on the island. But I think we would all agree that to drive past your place of employment, to then go wait on a trolley or a bus to come back to it, and then have to do the same thing over again, we're probably not going to see the utilization. We've seen these diverging diamonds where they reverse traffic and things like that could somehow, the people coming off of Fort Pickens in the parking area wouldn't have to cross traffic. Well, they would have to cross it at some point, and now you're stopping that other lane of traffic. So I think we have, again, what we can utilize with the traffic light, we're putting a lot of cars through there, and it gives us some control, much like what we had this past weekend, that when we need to flush or get a backup relieved, we can do it, and we can do it quickly in real time. So again, I wanted to come to you all and talk about the plan before I went out and spent money on having somebody design it and look at it. I do think this would, as we said, when traffic starts to back up, it's because the parking lot gets full. This weekend, it was about 12 o'clock was when that parking lot was full. Again, that's when we start seeing these backups. Of course, some of our worst backups have been the Thursday of Blue Angels, when everybody's trying to come out late for the show. The parking lot closes off, and then people want to stop and ask how they can get in the parking garage, and that's what's led to the backups that we've had on the Thursday show for the last 2 years. So I've got some comment cards. If you haven't filled out a comment card and you want to speak, they're in the back, and I'll get to them. And so the first one I have here is Mike Pinzone.
Thank you, Robert. I do want to acknowledge all the work that you have done for the community and how much it has helped for the different things that you have done. But I wanted to say this. You know, I've been on both sides of the road. I've been on Papa's Pizza for 25 years. I've been Pensacola Beach built here for 20 years. So I get to experience the people that come out to the beach on both sides of the road. And what we have for a problem mostly is when we have people that are looking for parking that just keep circling back around, which causes traffic jams, and just you take 25, 30, 40 people that keep circling through the traffic pattern, it creates just a multitude of problems. And so I just wanted to say, by studying and watching myself, I'm not a technician or an engineer or any of these things, I'm just a pizza guy pretty much, but if we did dump into Casino Beach parking lot, because the natural resources, a lot of people are coming to Pensacola, right? Pensacola Beach. They're not coming for ice cream, they're not coming for a t-shirt, they're coming for the natural resources. So if we put the people where they want to be, and we can dump them into that lot, and then they can separate and spread out from there. We have trolleys that run, we have different things that move people around. So we're not trying to create more of a congestion. What we're trying to do is give them a base to where they can stop, park, we dump them right in there, and then when it's time to leave, we just bring them back around and back out, and then it will cause, it will help all the problems that we've experienced over the years. And just like Orlando or any other part of Florida, you know, we're going to just keep growing, and we're not going to stop people from coming out here. They're coming here because of the natural resources. A lot of people were in the military as a younger person. They come back and they retire here, and they want to come to their beach, and we need to provide them with a spot to where they can park. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mike. Just real quick, also on funding, as I said, one thing that was suggested was toll proceeds. If I could avoid that, that would be my goal. I think we could look at TDT tax. I have some LOST, and also that, of course, the county's in the process of selling OLF8, in which that will be divided amongst the 5 districts, and I could use some of that money as well. So, again, depending on the scope of this, we might be able to fund it without having to do the increase. Yes, sir, Mike, go ahead.
So, and I agree with you. I would hate to have to charge for anything out here as an amenity. But the fact of the matter is, truthfully, if we charge for parking, then everybody's going to want to look for free parking. So it's going to just do the same thing that's happening now. So we can't do that, right? If it came down to, if we had to raise the toll, I I think we could do it in such a way that the tourists would have to pay the difference for what we're gonna need. But like any other project, every businessman out here knows, once you make a decision, and once you decide that this needs to be done, then we go out and find the money. But until we decide that this needs to be done, because we're still a couple of years out, and things are growing rapidly, we have to make a decision to get this done, and then we'll make sure that we find the money.
Perfect. Thank you. Ted Ant?
Thank you, Robert. Thanks for spending some time with us down here today, and thanks for the things you have done today. There is no question that getting on the beach is much easier than it was in 2018. But unfortunately, with the conditions that we have, it's still not good enough. We still experience unacceptable congestion. I think we all agree that more parking is necessary, but without fixing the intersection and coming up with a long-term plan to separate people from cars, we're still going to have to flush now what could be 2,000 parking spaces at Casino Beach if we double in size. How do you get those people out of there and off the beach? Getting off the beach is just as difficult as getting on the beach. And you and I have personally had several conversations about that. I also want all the residents to know that 10 years ago, a group of constituents and leaseholders were put together to do a master plan. It had several options, both near-term, mid-term, and long-term solutions to separating people from cars, fixing the traffic congestion long-term. And again, I applaud what you have done because it has helped quite a bit. But still, increasing the flow of cars by 400, 500, or 600 cars, and what we need to do is triple the flow of cars through the intersection itself. Really needs to be paid attention to. I appreciate that you brought up the sources of funding. We passed the 5th cent, although a lot of people didn't want it, like myself. That money is there. The majority of that money is being collected on the beach. It should be spent on the beach. If we don't earmark that money, if we, as constituents on the beach, don't claim that money, it will be spent somewhere else. So we need to go after some of those funds. We need to go after our fair share of LOST. We're the largest collector outside of Cordova of LOST collection, and they spend a fraction of it out here on the beach. We've gone public with these figures many times. Rick Haas, who's the most astute economist in Northwest Florida, has said multiple times in multiple public venues that this beach is the golden goose for Escambia County. It shouldn't be the golden goose at the expense of the residents, or of the beach itself, or the expense of the people who live in the county who see this as their largest public park. We really need to get that master plan out. We need to get focused and united as a group of people, and we need to go after a long-term solution. You know, the safety and the well-being of our residents should never be political. And we're all here today, and again, I appreciate it. It's the third time I told you, I appreciate you being here at this conversation. Let's get together, let's solve these problems once and for all. We've got more money than we've ever had, y'all. More money. If we don't go after it, we won't do it.
Sure. All right. Thank you. So on the TT, I was on that committee until I was rolled off of it a little over a year ago. Under that, we did start a savings account for beach renourishment at $500,000 a year that had not been in the budget before. It paid for some renovations of the pavilions at Mom's Beach, at Park West, the bathroom renovations, the Casino Beach Pavilion was redone, and we are also still working on the bathroom at Casino Beach, Park East bathroom as well. So those are some funds that are coming in. By statute, certain percent, it's 40%, has to at least be spent on advertising. The other thing is that it was instituted for the Bay Center, where we've been 1.3 had been going to pay for the debt on it, and now we're looking at how we can expand that building. So although we do have some money and we're starting to get more on the beach, I would love to take some more and do that. It's paid for natural resources out here, some of the turtle patrol things like that. And so we are getting some. If you say it's not our fair share, I could agree with you, and I'd always go for more, and we would be happy to advocate for that. I know that tomorrow's agenda, Lee Davis with the Island Authority will be making a presentation asking for some of those funds to be utilized on the beach. John Buchner?
Hi, thanks for coming out. I'm just a resident here on the beach, no special position or anything, but one thing that I wanted to talk to you about was I'm all in favor for obviously adding parking in the core of the beach itself, but it just seems to me that we need to improve the flow of traffic on and off and use funds to do that before we start attracting more vehicles on the beach with additional parking. Am I missing something there?
I'd say that we have done some drastic improvements to the traffic on the beach. We can see that in our data in that it not backing up onto the bridge. I guess my, of course, question is what's acceptable? Because if, and I had somebody say that look at how the roundabout at the foot of the bridge has improved traffic. The roundabout didn't improve the flow of traffic there. It was creating the flyovers and taking out the traffic light that improved the traffic there. Only a fraction of the traffic actually uses the roundabout. And so if we wanted to, and I think the figure that was used when it was looked into last was 70 million to create flyovers to where you could take out that traffic light. It becomes somewhat cost prohibitive. But I also think of, what beach community doesn't have traffic? When I came in 4 years ago, my goal was to be to where residents were not stuck here on the weekends. And that is something I have tried to improve. We added the cameras on our myescambia.com Pensacola Beach site so that people could see in real time what was going on. Also, people coming out to the beach can see the parking lot. Even on our busiest days, traffic coming onto the beach took about an additional 10 to 15 minutes. So once, again, we have all these cars coming on, I think to say there will be no traffic, again, I think we have to look at what's acceptable.
But if we do put this garage out there, just exactly how are we going to get these additional people off and put it, at the end of the day?
Sure. That'd be part of the design of it. That was actually some of the things where some of the other locations were not conducive to that. If you think of in front of the sand shaker, for one, it would have been very easy to get to, but getting out of it and heading north would have been problematic. Of course, one of the things that we did was do the hard right turn onto Fort Pickens so that the cars coming out of the parking lot could flow a little freer. It could be something where we can adjust it with the timing of the light to allow it to flush. During Blue Angels last year, I was out in the intersection with the Sheriff's Department as we were working with our traffic engineer and flushing the parking lot and still allowing Fort Pickens to flush. So, but I would have to leave that up to the design.
Is the roundabout, is that a dead issue?
Yes.
So that won't happen.
Not underneath.
What about the walkovers or walk-unders?
Sure. The walkover is something I would like to look at as part of the parking garage. Again, you have a gradual slope incline to get it to the level that you need, and then it would dump on the other side. So, part of the issue with walkovers is that people don't like to walk 40 yards over to go up something to come down something, and then another 40 yards to get back if I could just go straight to A to B. And so I think we would have to account for that. Of course, with the underpasses, again, I'm in favor of trying to separate pedestrians from the cars. But with the water table and things like that, there were some other concerns there. I think this is definitely a cheaper option to do the flyover, or rather the overpass. And so it would be something that would be looked into.
I was a little confused on this where you were saying that was.
Sure. So I'll step away just to show everybody. I'll try to speak up, but you have to stay south of this to avoid those utilities that I discussed with EC Way. And then also look at something this side of the path. Again, that would give us more of a straight shot with the overpass into the quiet water area. And then we would be able to come south to do it. It would, again, you'd be some distance off of the road, so you wouldn't have this structure right up against the road. And if we did one level, then I think you would keep a low profile and not just be some monstrosity. Again, if you kept it further south, I think you could have a low profile and not have it be such a monstrosity. And I would say that's one thing that I do try to keep in mind is keep the feeling of Pensacola Beach, not to have it turn into a concrete jungle, that it is a slice of paradise, and to try to keep it that way. It's, as I said, if we had all the money in the world, then we wanted to do flyovers and take out the traffic light and 70 million and everything else. That would be how you could avoid it. But I don't know if that's what we would all like to see as we drive onto the beach either. Charlene Meyer?
Anything that's going to be east of the light is going to cause more backups on vehicles, and it's going to cause more backups on Fort Pickens. And those things have to be looked at. The other thought is to have on weekends use the high school parking lot and transport people from the hotels as well as the parking area there by trolley back on the beach. Some other possibilities.
Sure. And I know that we've worked on that. We attempted to do that last year with some of the businesses. It was not heavily utilized. I think part of the reason was that it was utilized for 4th of July and Blue Angel weekends. Some of those days it rained early, and I think the employees knew, hey, I got a wide open parking lot because it was raining at 10 a.m. And of course we've discussed it. I think the last, and maybe Lee can correct me, I don't think Gulf Breeze is looking at being a long-term solution for that. So I think we could do it, like I said, on some of these special weekends. And I've looked at property in Gulf Breeze on what we could acquire to build something. I've come up short, so if anybody has any ideas, then please send them my way. But that's exactly what I was saying earlier, was if I'd be happy to try to utilize that and do something there, that people wouldn't have to drive past their place of employment to then be shuttled back and go back and forth a couple times. So
Obviously, it has to be
right.
and that's what happens at
Yes, and I think to that point is that if we know that if you're stopped at traffic in front of the Pensacola Beach sign, and you know that's only going to take you 10 or 12 minutes to get through the light from there, it's more of a known, and that people are willing to sit through that as opposed to something a lot longer, and so of course with trying to I think the ideal would be more for an employee, something like that. I think when you get families that are trying to get out to the beach and they have all their beach toys and towels and coolers and everything like that, and trying to load that into a trolley to then, so trying to make it as convenient as possible for the public.
Well, one other thing that came back is 2 ways again. And I'm sure you probably looked at that, but that is something that would relieve the traffic. I mean,
Yes, ma'am. I know I've talked about traffic engineers about that as recently again as last year, about what we could do, and I think what they said was they thought it was still the same, but I think as part of the parking garage design, everything would be on the table in that regard, and see what they would say as well. Rhonda Dorfman.
Thank you. Like everyone else here, I believe that, Rhonda Dorfman, I am president of Pensacola Beach Advocates, but my viewpoints here tonight are my own personal viewpoints. I don't think we should be discussing parking garages until we deal with the traffic congestion issue. 24,000 people came onto our beach on Saturday, and they obviously found parking spots somewhere. If you put in 500 parking spots at Casino Beach, you will add to the congestion at the light. I'm very, very sympathetic to the businesses who have to find employee parking. I don't understand why a low-level parking garage or low-profile garage on the boardwalk is not on the table as well, because it's their businesses that seem to have the most trouble finding the parking spots for the employees. A lot of things in the 2016 and the 2012 master plan, they had short-term, they had long-term. We did the access road, we did the turn lane on Fort Pickens, we did the Casino Beach parking lot, traffic change. Some of those things work, like the turn lane on Fort Pickens, but it doesn't seem like some of the other things work. So sometimes, when the engineers come up with things, I'm not always very positive that, it's all going to work the best way possible. As president of Pensacola Beach Advocates, there is one thing that I do want to say, is that in no way, shape, or form do I want to see a parking garage go up that would lower any residents' property values. That is very, very, very important to me personally. On Sunday, the traffic was backed up to Bobside Bridge at 10:15. When I got to the light, tons of parking, still at Casino Beach parking lot. Traffic was still dropped at the bottom of the Bobside Bridge. Saturday, my husband came across at 1 p.m. Traffic was just still stopped right there. Of course, he came up Highway 98 the other way. Traffic was about to the bottom of the Bobside Bridge. The parking lot was full, of course, at that time. 500 more spots is going to get crowded about, another hour. So that's $10 million to give people another hour's worth of, good parking opportunities. Once again, I would love my employers or the businesses to have parking for their employees. And I think in the short term, we could probably help them out somehow. Not completely and totally opposed to a parking garage if we can get our traffic management plan handled. On days like yesterday, and I would love to ask the sheriff, why did it take 2 hours to clear that incident? We need an innkeeper, a zookeeper out here on the weekends. We need someone that can be there and say, wait a minute, we're going to get our police out here to stop traffic, hold this, do that. And I didn't get down there, but I do know that someone tried to leave my house at 6 p.m., which is down by Park West, and it took them 1 hour just to get to Penn Lake Beach. So, I don't know what could have been done to have resolved that problem. But I do believe, though, that they're finding someplace to park.
Sure.
So, and, those are my thoughts and comments, and we appreciate you holding this public forum tonight.
Thank you, Rhonda. Just to clarify, so FHP deals with traffic accidents in the unincorporated area of Escambia County. We have reached out to FHP to find out why that was not, maybe it took the officer 2 hours to get there. I don't know what it was, but just like they have on the bridge, remove, from the reports that I had, they were relatively minor in damage. They were probably operable, and they could have moved them at least to the access road. So definitely work on that with the FHP and find out why that wasn't done earlier. Kathleen De Silva? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Robert Rinke?
Robert Rinke, and I've got Levin Rinke Realty as well. So Robert, first of all, as you know, we've gone through years of consultants. Escambia County's hired 2 separate consultants, and they told us to do 3 things. First thing they told us to do was quit collecting $1 per toll. They said if you have that light at the intersection, you can only get 2,000 or 3,000 cars an hour through that intersection. When you fix the toll and you don't fix the intersection, it's just going to back up at the intersection. And then they said you got to get people parked, they want to be in the pool, you got to add parking, you got to add it with public parking garages. So for years they had this advice from 2 separate consultants, by the way, $3 million spent years. And you were the first county commissioner that followed what they asked by opening up the toll. So thank you for that. That dramatically reduced backing up through Gulf Breeze over the 3-mile bridge. What they said was correct, and what you did to fix it was correct. So now I'm all about the parking garage. We've needed it for years. I do believe the consultant said the best place for that garage was at Casino Beach. I do believe in the low profile, so you don't drive onto the beach and see a concrete building. If it's one level like we did at the Hilton, it's actually better looking than not having a garage, because you don't see a sea of cars or a sea of asphalt when you're on the beach. You have an attractive, very low profile structure. I think you have 1,200 spaces in the casino, 1,200 to 1,400 spaces. I think you could even get 800 cars in one of those. And they are far cheaper per space to build than you go vertical with the parking garage. So I do think that's the answer. And I do think the answer is to have that parking garage pushed to the south, where you completely open up your intersection, because ultimately, every consultant has told us we have to fix that intersection. If we don't fix that intersection, we didn't fix anything. So if you leave it pushed back, it leaves you ample opportunity to put whatever you need to. So as you know, you were heavily involved in the roundabouts, and we were opposed to the roundabouts. When that was being done by the engineers, their directive was we can't give up any parking. So they made the roundabouts on the smaller size. You objected to that because they were too small, potentially. It could potentially cause an issue. To leave plenty of space where that parking garage is pushed south, where you can do anything in the future you need to fix that intersection, because ultimately those consultants were correct. If you don't separate people from cars, they're going to stop the cars 99.99% of the time, and you've got traffic congestion. If you don't get rid of the light, you're stopping the traffic congestion. You're stuck at 2,500 cars an hour, when you could be 6,000, 8,000 cars per hour, and have a measured huge impact on the traffic flow in that area. So it's okay to do the parking garage next. That's going to help some, like when you opened up the toll, but leave that intersection with whatever, whether it's a flyover to totally resolve the issue, or really nice-sized roundabouts that will totally change that intersection. From a money standpoint, 20 years ago, we asked the Island Authority to hire Rick Walker because we weren't getting any money on the beach. And there's no votes on the beach, so we don't get any money on the beach. So we asked Rick Walker, what does Pensacola Beach mean to the economy of Pensacola? He did that study, the Island Authority paid for it. That study came back 15, 20 years ago. The beach meant $850 million a year, every year, to the economy of Pensacola. That study is being done again by Rick Walker. It's going to be a couple $2 billion a year. We don't get our fair share of sales tax, bed tax, LOST. We don't get our share of anything. And we have a massive impact economically. It's about the quality of life of every resident of Pensacola, Pensacola Beach, and every tourist. It's all free. We need to spend serious money on the infrastructure of Pensacola Beach. Thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you, Robert. James Burbank.
you for coming out here, appreciate it.
Yes, sir, thank you.
It's been an issue forever. I've been pro parking garage for 15, 20 years. More people in the spot. Question is, how do we do it? The Hilton, when they built their garage with just 2 stories, said, hey, that's quite appealing. I made a list of some of the businesses, starting off with the dock, crabs, UFOs, sidelines, loungers, Subway, Circle K, Alvin's Island, Whiskey John, Ron John's, they had 2 of those buildings, Banana Willie, Bamboo Willie's, Hooters, Felix's. There's thousands of employees that come out there. Some of them come to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, some leave at 10 o'clock at night. Problem seems to be when you have shift change. And they're driving around and around, trying to find a spot. Sometimes it takes them 20 minutes, sometimes they're lucky. If we built a parking garage with a municipal bonds, had an automated system where the employees could get into it with a car, charge them 50 cents an hour, not charge them, but charge the company 50 cents an hour, $1 an hour, that would help pay for it. And the only time we would have an issue, I think, would be during shift change. But I'm thinking about the money, you said $35,000 a spot, well, get a 30-year bond, but have the people that are spending the money help pay for the parking garage, have it fully automated. There's 300 spots. When it's full, the gate won't open. When there's 3 spots open, the gate opens, lets 3 more employees in. That would help pay for it. It could be done. It could be done and look nice. You could also have, from the 3-story, you could have a walkover across the Analuna. I'm just thinking about how we pay for it, but it does have to be done.
Yes, sir.
That's my opinion.
Thank you, sir, I appreciate it. Patrick Butler?
Yes, hello, I'm Patrick Butler, and I'm one of the newbies here. I've only owned the property for about a decade, so it's a new guy kind of viewpoint for this stuff. I also work with the Pensacola Beach Advocates. That's where I learn a lot of stuff about what's going on. And I also like to talk to the employees, as I use all the different staffing areas around here. I like to get their ideas too, because they're the ones who do this in and out kind of thing. Yes, traffic has been improved over the years as far as I've seen, and how much parking is going around and around, I'm not really sure myself, but I do know traffic is the big problem. And I even did that informal poll tonight on my way over here from Sidelines, and the folks there said their main problem is the traffic, and they were talking about Sunday morning, trying to get in for the 10 o'clock shift, and it was traffic that was holding them up, not trying to find a parking space. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is, yes, let's keep improving this traffic situation, and then in a natural way, possibly switch into these different ideas of how to use a garage, where to put a garage. But it has always been that intersection. And it's one of our favorite things at Emerald Isle. We look out from the back balcony here to view the Luna. And around 3:30 p.m. on weekends, you know that line is going all the way down to Portofino. So obviously, there's a very big traffic issue. All those people, as has been said earlier, all those people found somewhere to park. They may have gone around a few times, and I personally have had to do the same thing. I learned the hard way. But that's my idea. Let's get the traffic working. Emphasis on that light. It's always been the problem. We got to take people under it, around it. Remember, we changed the pedestrian crossings, right, to sync up with the lights. The stock cars for people to get across. And we just need to continue that. Pedestrians seem to be a large part of the problem with cars not getting in smoothly.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And actually, you reminded me of something else that I forgot to mention earlier, was that in the current legislative budget, we do have $200,000 from the state to go with a $250,000 match from the county for design for the gateway. And what that would look like is our hope would be to remove the toll plaza and make it look a lot nicer when you come in, so that you know that you've arrived at a world-class beach. A couple years ago, I went up to Atlanta to listen to Visit Pensacola was doing some marketing. I got to sit behind the mirror, and watch these people talk about. These were all people that had come to visit us before, and some of the things they talked about were what they were welcome to when they came to Pensacola Beach. So we've submitted additional information to the governor's office, and hopefully he doesn't veto it. But we look forward to, if he doesn't, to getting the design started on that and what we could do to really make the beach welcoming and look good as you come on. Ramek Amjad?
Thanks for coming out and doing this. We moved to the beach about 11 years ago, and I honestly think he made a lot of improvements here, so this isn't really complaining, but one of the things I'm most concerned about, honestly, is pedestrian traffic, especially over by sidelines. People just walk out. I've almost hit people multiple times, they get mad, they hit your car, but it's a stoplight. I just can't understand why law enforcement doesn't help people jaywalking, and they do it all the time. Especially when it's, I have 2 new drivers in my family. I'm terrified they're going to kill somebody. My son saw somebody get hit about 4 months ago, and the woman was not like 50 feet because when it gets dark, people don't pay attention and they hit people. The other thing that I'm supportive of the parking garage, by the way, but I think that the traffic, I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. It's a pretty busy city. I don't understand why we can't have a cop out there waving traffic and paying attention to where things are. When I came through Sunday, okay, there wasn't just the accident. There's somebody that's trying to get into the Circle K parking, and they just stop in the middle of the intersection, and there's nothing happens to them. If I did that in St. Louis, Missouri, I'd get arrested, and my car would get towed. So I just feel like when we know the busy times are, I don't understand why we can't have law enforcement there controlling the traffic and waving people through. Not just controlling the light. Seeing an officer out there waving people through and doing that, then people don't do stupid stuff. And then the last point I want to make, I'm fine paying my taxes here. We live in a beautiful community, and I love it out here. My family's moved down, my parents moved down, my sisters moved down. We love it out here. But I'm tired of all the taxes from our area getting used to pay for the rest of the county. Okay? I'm happy to do our fair share, and I'm glad that this supports the county. But I feel like more of the money needs to be spent out here. They shouldn't be asking us to pay for a parking garage. Okay, $850 million a year. I just did a quick math when you said how many spots you wanted. That's $15 million. That's a fraction of what the city or the county makes off of this beach. And then lastly, it does drive me crazy that the Island Authority only has very little representation. You should have to live on the island in order to be on the island authority. I think that's a mistake.
Thank you. So before I think I've gone through and filtered all the ones that didn't relate to the parking garage. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on the parking garage? Charlie? Is that right, if I can see right? Yep.
First of all, I'd like to thank all 102 of us that came after this. Very important that we be heard. Robert, I applaud what you've done. You make decisions based on statistics instead of emotion, and that's what's working. Getting rid of the toll station, that's a choke point. I fear, and I've been an advocate of the garage for like 10 years. I've got facades of 4-story garages that would blend in perfectly. Every place in America, there's paid parking. I will pay for the luxury of keeping my car out of the sun in a parking garage. I fear that we'd be wasting money on a low-level parking garage. One thing that I really fear is that a parking garage is a smoke screen for the roundabout coming back again. It doesn't work. Go to Destin, they fail all the time. Volker agreed that the side swipe, sudden lane change accidents are going to cause a big hit. And that was back when parking garages were 16 to 18 to 19,000 space. But I'd like to see us do it in the casino parking lot, and I think that's probably the best place to do it. I appreciate the way you do and make decisions, and don't listen to the emotion.
I appreciate it, Charlie. And Charlie, I didn't see anybody else necessarily raise their hand about the parking. Did you have anything else you wanted to? Oh, okay. Well, go ahead.
I'd like to reiterate what Charlie said. I live in the other part of Escambia County, and I lived out here when I was younger, been in my whole life, in and out. The roundabouts don't work. They just start on Perdido. It's a disaster. It's too small, it's not enough space for it. I feel if we're gonna go ahead and do two garages, two levels, we might as well do four. It'll work.
Yeah.
I
So,
came from Virginia Beach, I lived there for 20 years as well, and people pay. They pay. And if you can't have, any dollar you don't spend today is gonna cost you $2 or $3 more, and you need to project for the future. They're not gonna stop coming, they're just gonna keep coming, more and more and more. Also, as well as the parking garages, that I don't understand why we're just looking at one, and why we're not putting one over where the restaurants and things are, put a lower level one over there. But the more the better, and the plan for the projection, what's getting ready to happen, you're gonna be better off when
Sure.
it comes to funding.
sure. From what we can tell from zoning, the most we'd be able to go up is 2 stories on that area of the south of Via de Luna, south of that intersection there. You could go up higher on the north side, but it's a lot tighter trying to do that like in front of the Quiet Water boardwalk or something like that. It becomes a lot tighter where almost, we deal with it at the parking garage at the county where I think they call it Space Mountain because it's you go up and around, you don't know what's coming around the corner and maybe not the most efficient design, but again, that's something we'll definitely look at too, though, is the different levels and what it can accommodate. Anybody else? Pam, on the parking garage? Okay, yep, come on.
Thank you, Robert. I basically am raised in Pensacola, Florida, and always been here. And I have to say, we are the problem that created this situation. I always assumed that businesses, hotels, condominiums were based on the infrastructure on the island. We have one road coming in and out, and there is so much congestion in that area, much less the short-term rentals that we're allowing. 39 people at the beach directly across where we are now. We are allowing all of this to be developed, and we still have one way in and one way out. So even though we can build a parking garage and we can address the traffic issues, we are allowing more and more businesses on this island without looking, can we absorb this growth? I don't think we can. But I think going forward, we need to also have long-term plans on what we want the island to develop into and how we're going to absorb this. This is the way we're going to continue. We just don't have room for all these cars.
Thank you. All right, anybody else on the parking garage? Tom? Yeah, come on.
So, I don't know if we've looked into Fort Pickens at all to kind of take some of our, tourists. I think they're allowing all military veterans. I think they changed their rule about a year or two ago, where any military veteran and their, their family can go on to Fort Pickens for free. I don't know exactly what sort of ID card they need, but we need to see if we can advertise, try and get more people off of Casino Beach and over to Fort Pickens.
Sure. Is the superintendent here? He had said he was going to try to make it, Superintendent Eccles. So I've definitely talked with him about some other things. I can follow up with him and ask about that. Tom, did you want to go ahead and make any other comments just while you're up?
I think you're doing a great job. I appreciate the crosswalks. Like a lot of folks said, we're not getting enough money here. That's obvious. The leaseholders are paying $600,000 for those trolleys every year. We're paying $1 million, the leaseholders are paying $1 million for that public beach. We're paying $300,000 this year to dredge the public waterways at Little Sabine and Lafitte Cove. We're paying for the Blue Angel air shows, the leaseholders are paying for those. We're paying for bands on the beach, et cetera, and we're getting beat up at those commission meetings by the commissioners from districts 1, 3, and 5, and they're up to their necks in scandals themselves. I don't know why they are beating us up, but we need to start getting some of that money. There's $21.8 million just on tourist development taxes. We can stop advertising for people. We've got too many people on this beach already. Let's cut the advertising down to the bare minimum. The other authorities also, we've got E.W. Bullock, we're spending $145,000 on their advertising. Why can't we start, we don't have one representative on the Tourist Development Council. Well, we bring all the tourist development taxes to this county, and we don't have one representative. I'd like to see if we can get Mr. Johnson on that Tourist Development Council immediately. The Tourist Development Council just they just sent to the Florida Auditor General. They're trying to put pressure on Pam Childers about how much money she's using of that TNT for her administrative fees. And the Auditor General said that we can designate all of our public waterways as nature centers. And by doing so, we can start using some of that $21.8 million all over this county to improve the county, rather than spending money on tourism all the time. We have all the advertising that we need. Let's cut the advertising down to the bare minimum and start using that money to enhance this beach.
All right, thank you, Tom. As you're talking, Jim Reeves, he's on the board. It is set by statute, and we do have, you do have some that are collectors, and then you have some that are interested parties, which I believe 2 of those are leaseholders on the beach. Mary Hoxing and David Bear are both leaseholders on the beach. And then you have 2 city council members and a commissioner. But no, I agree. Like I said, we've been fighting to have some, and I appreciate Jim's support when the vote came up to put $500,000 a year on the beach for renourishment, along with the other monies that we've spent in repairing some of the infrastructure out here. Dale Hensley.
Hi, this is related to infrastructure, and what's being done about the roads, and we used to fix on the island have drainage block. And we've talked to engineers on my street several times, and they always talk about permeated asphalt and solutions. When is this going to happen? Do you have funds available to address this issue?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, there's, is it, not water sciences, but wetland science, thank you, is under contract to come start doing the evaluation on your area. And they should start that in the next few weeks. And then we'll look at repaving and grading so it funnels towards the runoff. And so, so work is getting started on that. Neil Dorfman.
Thank you, Commissioner. I've got some comments about the dog park, and it won't cost you $1. As you, I think, are aware, the original proposal for the dog park west was not where it is today.
It was originally by ordinance down by Park West, extending 250 feet, I think it is, on either side. It was placed where it is today, and that combination without code enforcement does not meet the intention of the dog park, which was not only to provide a dog-friendly area on the beach, but also provide for the safety and pleasure of everybody else who goes to the beach, dog or no dog. So what I would like to propose is that we have your support to ask SRIA and the county to relocate the dog park to where it was supposed to be and enforce it as it was intended to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. So we have worked well with Lee. We do, they do pay for a animal control officer to be out here. That is one of the toughest positions that we have to fill. You know, we had a great lady out here for a long time that had to leave for medical reasons. And it's been tough to not just find her replacement, but to find someone who interacts well with the public and can do that. But also in the Island Authority budget this year is for a code enforcement officer to be out here. And we're working with the Island Authority to have that person out here on again, on a permanent basis. They would report most likely to the Island Authority and cover all the things that code enforcement would do. Of course, we do have them out here.
Just want to add that the original intention was to put it as far away from residential areas as it, which was accomplished on the east side. And that dog park, it does not accomplish it where it is now, but if it moves to the original spot, that would also be.
Okay, all right. And we'll talk with the Island Authority about that. Jean Luke? No, okay. She taught me everything I needed to know. That was in kindergarten. So that's it for speaker forms. Would anybody else like to speak? Of course, I'll stick around after to address any issues or talk about anything. But if you'd like to say anything else, you're welcome to come up.
Ask one more question.
Yes, sir.
The zoning change that would need to take place for there to be a 4-story parking garage with retail around the bottom and 2 restaurants on top, taxes, profit coming in with San Luis Island Authority tax and everything. How hard would that be? It's happening all the time, especially with liberal judges and everything else that's going on with that.
I'd have to double check on what that would take. You know, we did put in the resolution or the ordinance in 2019 that it would take unanimous approval by both boards to change out conservation and recreation zoning. So that might be the first hurdle. I would say that there have been people that have proposed putting a retail space into the parking garage. One that increases the cost because now you're having to design for a store, but 2, it not only takes away parking, but also adds the need for parking for the customers of the location. So again, I'm not necessarily opposed to having retail in there, but I think in this case, it takes away from the intent of it and even takes away more parking spots than what we'd have to make up for. Yes, sir.
One more comment.
Yes, sir. Come on up.
Has to do with traffic. And it's a simple fix. We like simple fixes. I've seen twice here in the last month where people try to make a U-turn, where the no U-turn sign is getting into Grand Marlin.
Okay.
And if they put a sign below that said U-turn ahead, they would know that they could go up and maybe legal U-turn.
Okay.
Seems like a pretty simple fix.
So,
I've seen that twice here.
When you're in the left turn lane, in other words, when you get in the left turn lane to go into turn.
The sign says you have to almost go over a curb to make a U-turn.
All right. I think my traffic engineer is still here. So, Chris, he's got it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Commissioner, Williams here. I know that the state did not pass the ordinance for vacation rentals this past session. And I know, having a conversation with you, you said that there was an ordinance written for Escambia County to pass an ordinance for vacation rentals and controlling vacation rentals. When is that going to happen, since the state is not going to pass it in 2023?
Sure.
Now we've already waited 3 years.
Yep. I'd say we're working on it. Some of the other entities have withstood challenges. Some of the things that I'd say the bill this year got the farthest that it had probably gotten in any other year, but it was also a little different. I would say both sides somewhat opposed it. The counties opposed it because it still it took away home rule and put things in terms of what could be charged, but it also allowed certain things which some of us believe that they're already allowed under the statute. It clarified it, but as they have with everything else, it would have wiped clean anything that had been enacted since 2012 when they took the original legislation.
Why can't Escambia County write its own ordinance?
We can, and again, with some of the things that were in that bill, we would have had to change them. So I think now that session's over, it didn't pass. We know where they stand, and we can try to address those concerns that would have been in conflict with that, just in preparing for whatever comes in the future. But it did allow things to have a cap on the number of persons, provided that it wasn't specific just to short-term rentals. Was one of the things that included in that.
Right. You plan on going forward with the ordinance with Escambia County?
Yes, sir.
How long in the future?
I don't have a time frame right now. We're still working with some other people on that, but it'll be coming.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes.
The gentleman spoke about the Fort Pickens area. It's a national seashore, just like it is out at Perdido. People go out to Perdido all day long. They're paying $20 car to get in. They ride through there, they get in, they got the bathhouse, they got the parking. It may be an option to go to the federal government or to the Department of the Military and see if they cannot go ahead and build another parking garage, or not a garage, even a parking area inside Fort Pickens Gate where you pay to get in. Let the burden go on them to provide it. It would take some of the military, give them somewhere to go, and other people to park, because they use it a lot over in our area on the other side. And they pay, they're backed up.
Yeah.
All the money at the guy, you know. I mean, I've got a lifetime pass. I'm old. I qualify for one of those. But they're out there and they use it day in, day out.
Sure. And again, I've tried to have regular conversations with the superintendent. He's been great to work with, and we've tried to help each other out with some of the things that we each have going on, and definitely something that we can bring up. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming out this evening. Again, I'll still be around if you have any questions or want to talk about anything else. Thank you so much.